Good evening. I don't have my hair done and I'm not putting makeup on because it's been like a bazillion degrees out this week. I am also going to once again try to record and edit in the same day because I have no control. Hello, my name is Amanda and welcome to Catechisms, the channel where I am deconstructing from my Catholicism and seeing what happens. So last video was like very youth pastor of me. Cute, but also not. But I thought I'd break that up with just some literature talking about books. So while I was living with family, my books were essentially just like sitting in boxes in their garage for nearly 2 years. And so when a friend of mine was helping me move and taking all of the boxes out, putting on the bookshelf way behind me, I was like, whoa, I didn't realize I had so much Christian literature. So I have 6 books in my hand, but I'm going to talk about 7 books because one of those books did not sit with me very well, and therefore I don't have it anymore. Okay, so I am going to go from least likely that you've also read it to most likely that you've at least heard about it. So let's get into it. The first of these books of Christianity/Catholicism that I'm going to talk about is something very specific to my home parish, and this is called Compassion, Congeniality, and Common Sense, a collection of Monsignoral musings from Monsignor Frederick J. Hellduser. Okay? So this is a very St. Dorothy's Parish specific book. That's my home parish. Shout out to St. Dots. Um, Monsignor Hellduser is the priest who was the presider of the Mass when I did my first communion. Monsignor is just like another title in the hierarchy that is priesthood. And in the weekly bulletins, he would just write in a little passage that he called his Monsignoral musings. I don't know what they're called now that it's a different priest because I haven't been to that church in a minute, haven't seen one of those bulletins in a minute, but I don't remember if we purchased these. I have it. I have it. Collector's edition. And it is just a combination of, I think, a collection of his Monsignor musings. I mean, they can't all have been bangers. He had to write one every single week. Hold on. First of all, I want to talk about, I was going to talk about the sections of this book. But first, I want to talk about how the quote in the beginning says, "Don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened, dash FJH," which is supposed to be, I guess, the Monsignor. But isn't that a Dr. Seuss quote? Am I crazy? Editing me right if that's a Dr. Seuss quote. Thanks. Oh my gosh, and the current pastor at St. Dorothy's, who by the way, we like petitioned for him because typically the archdiocese will just like stick whoever's like available as the next pastor of the church, but we all like basically grew up with this guy, and I don't want to like put him on blast because I think he's still a pastor there. Um, but great dude, wonderful dude. And he wrote his little heading for this book on my birthday in 2004. So isn't that nice? Okay, I'm wondering if perhaps we did purchase this, because in this note it says this book will also benefit the work of St. Dorothy's Elizabeth Ministry, the help and encouragement it extends to families who are suffering with infertility, contemplating or pursuing adoption, experiencing difficulty with pregnancy, providing for a child's special needs, or grieving a child's death. The ministry also offers grandparent support and, of course, joyfully welcomes each newly baptized child into our faith community. That's not too bad. That's an organization that Monsignor supported wholeheartedly. Not too shabby, dude. But there's a section on his musings about parish life, religious education, spirituality, advice and support, humor, and words of wisdom. So, I didn't say how I was going to rate these. Here's the thing. When I'm rating a book on Storygraph, because fuck Jeff Bezos and fuck Goodreads, when I'm rating a story on Storygraph, I basically am like, did I enjoy it? 5 stars. Like that's I can't like rate it anything less if I enjoyed it. So like if I own the book, I obviously enjoyed it. 5 stars. So how are we going to rate this? Okay, you know what? Even though it's gonna be hard, I'm gonna rate this out of 5 chalices of blood, right? The cups of wine that we have at church, but it's not wine anymore. It's blood. It's a dead guy's blood. So I don't know how somebody would rate this book if they did not know this man. But I am going to say 5 chalices of blood. I mean, it's good wisdom. There's nothing like overtly offensive or mean in here, which is saying something because Catholics, right? But I think if I didn't mention this before, I really do like the parish that I grew up in. I got a really good religious education there. The kneelers are comfortable as fuck. I don't know what it is about other churches' kneelers, but the church I grew up in, it's like pillows. It's amazing. And I dreamed of getting married there someday. It's a very beautiful church, but that's probably not gonna happen. So yeah, Monsignor Hallduzer's collection of works that was put together after he passed, 5 chalices of blood. So this next one is going to be super familiar to anyone who graduated from the Catholic college program that I attended within like probably about 5-ish years. This was the gift that we gave every graduating senior from our Catholic club, Graduating with God. And you know what? It's not as godly as, I wouldn't say maybe not as godly. It's not like Jesus on every page, you know what I mean? So if you're looking at the chapters, we have chapter 1 is keeping the faith, you know, shopping for a church, church activities, read the Bible, prayer, and God in the everyday. But then you have things like manners, ordering food, money, checking accounts, saving accounts, CDs, money market funds, stocks and mutual funds, student loans. You have getting your apartment. This chapter 5 is called W4401K HMO, translating day one at work. So you have stuff about insurance and retirement, and chapter 6 is the least you need to know about your taxes. And then you have sections on moving, auto insurance, buying versus leasing a car, identity theft, and you know, because it's Christianity, the very last section is about engagement rings. You do still need to be married and reproduce and get all your children baptized in the church, okay? But this book, I don't know that I've even used it as much as I should have, but I think for a book as like concise as it is, it's an incredible resource. I will say inside the cover, this book says that it was updated in November of 2008. And I graduated college in 2014, so I'm sure information had changed and, you know, we just didn't get the updated copy. So for that alone, the 6-year difference in rules about taxes and 401ks, I am going to give this 4 out of 5 blood chalices. Still a great resource. And, you know, not as like indoctrinating as other things might be, but old news, baby. Is this signed? I forgot that this book is kind of autographed for me. So this is a book called Mercy in the City. We read during my time in the Newman group. I think we might have met this person. I mean, we had to. It's autographed by the author, right? Look, there's to Amanda, B. Mercy, Heart, Carrie Weber. Can you see that? I have a lot of lights, so it takes time to adjust. Yeah. So, Mercy in the City, how to feed the hungry, give drink to the thirsty, visit the imprisoned, and keep your day job by Carrie Weber. And I absolutely adore this book because the things I like about Christianity is the stuff that like is about taking care of each other, is about what Jesus actually sent us out to do. Visit the imprisoned, give drink to the thirsty, etc. And it is a funny book, and it's just a realistic New York City woman trying to live out these good deeds. And I really, really enjoyed it. Reading a little passage from the back of this. From handing out sandwiches to riding the subway to being nearly locked out of the Easter Vigil, Weber embraces each experience as an opportunity to better understand what mercy is really all about and grow in her love of God and others. And I mean, side note, also cover art, incredible. Let me find out who did the cover art and give them that shout out, because that's beautiful. Okay, so the cover art credits are from people on Shutterstock.com, it seems. We have a Ratana21 for the texture, and the illustration is Lavanda Art. I will spell that out when I am editing. So this is published by Loyola Press, a Jesuit ministry. And if you know anything about priests, I mean, they're kind of like fraternities, right? There's different orders of them. There's the Jesuits, there's the crap. Who do we used to sing for? Okay, never. This book was published by Loyola Press, which is a Jesuit ministry. Now, there's different types of priests. One of the kind of almost fraternities of them are the Jesuits, and the Jesuits are kind of the closest to actual, like, closest to the actual deeds that Jesus suggested that we do. The late Pope Francis was a Jesuit. So is Leo an Augustinian? Is that one of them? I'm so mad that I can't remember who we used to sing for in Florida. Because those priests knew how to fucking party. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and rate this 5 out of 5 blood chalices. I think it's a really good book just for anyone who's trying to like think of things you can do in a world that's just kind of like crumbling all around you, and how the hell am I supposed to do any like real help for people who need it. This is a good place to start. Mercy in the City, Carrie Weber. She told me to be Mercy, and I hope I'm still fulfilling that promise. Thank you, Carrie. Now, if you know someone who is like Catholic, like going to church all the time, they likely have a book in their home that is by Matthew Kelly. Matthew Kelly has written quite a few books for Catholics. I am so certain that these books, specifically the Rediscover Jesus book, was given away for free in like so many of the parishes in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. Because I have this one, but I had another one because my mom got me one from her church. So the back of the book kind of explains that, like, indeed it was a free book. It's called Best Lent Ever. That's also why it's purple. Purple is like a Lenten color, but I don't have time to get into that now. So it says, don't give up chocolate for Lent this year. I did when I was like 8 and it was a nightmare. Anyway, at Dynamic Catholic, we're passionate about re-energizing Catholics and their parishes. Best Lent Ever is one of our most popular free programs. This coming Lent, the program will feature daily 2-minute videos that will take you through Rediscover Jesus chapter by chapter. So it was like a book club. You know, we were all in like a big book club this one particular Lent. And while I don't remember many specifics about this book, I know I only have one copy right now because I enjoyed this book so much that I left one copy just on the New York City subway because I was like, hopefully this book will find the person it's meant to find, which is so fucking Christian of me. And I'm sorry to whoever had to clean up the subway. If you threw out the book, I'm not mad at you. So this book being titled Rediscover Jesus, you can probably assume that it is like coming back to what did the actual guy say for us to do? What kind of life did he lead? What does it mean to live like him? I mean, the prologue is literally titled, Are You Jesus? So I really enjoyed this. There's how many chapters are there? There's 40 chapters. Some of them are named such as Dancing for Joy, Do Not Judge, Radical Love, The Prayer Process, The Heart of the Gospel, The Greatest Teacher Ever. Chapter 8 is called Jesus Was a Radical. So reading this book in New York City, and then can you see the weather damage on this one? I obviously really, really liked it, and enough to keep a copy for myself. Maybe I'll revisit it sometime. If not, it's going to look real good, this beautiful shade of purple. I would rate this 4 out of 5 blood chalices. And I probably should do 5 because I liked it so much that I thought a stranger needed to read it. But since I don't really remember specifics, I'm going to cut a blood chalice for that. Now, I'm going to pause right here just because I don't want to save this book for like right before the end. I think slot number 5 is a good slot for it. But I will put an image of this book here. This is a book called Gay and Catholic. And this is a book that I was gifted the Christmas after I came out to my mother and got yelled at about it for 2 days straight. And then we acted like it never happened. She gave me this, like in secret. She said, your grandmother can never see that you have this. We can talk about that another time or never. Um, but yeah, I had this book sit in my bedside table for a really long time. I didn't really want to look at it because I had a feeling it was going to be condescending. And boy, oh boy, it sure is. Basically, this person was atheist, then, came to terms that with their sexuality, that she's a lesbian, then converted to Catholicism, which is a choice, and then decided to be celibate to fulfill her vocations with the Lord. And here's the thing, is this book would have been almost the exact same whether or not she mentioned celibacy. But the celibacy is in there as like a look, I'm not saying that you should be celibate because you're gay, but I am, and I'm the one that's doing it right. So I hated it, and I don't have that book anymore. Zero chalices of blood. I was gonna give it 1 because you know how like on Yelp you can't do 0 stars, but it'll just save me some editing. And then this book's not worth the editing. 0 out of 5 chalices of blood. I have no plans on being celibate. And like, cool for you if you are. Next! This book was one of 2 books recommended to me by the campus minister when I was in my college Catholic group. And I gotta say, that guy had great taste in books, okay? Because these next 2 are really, really incredible. This, Tattoos on the Heart, The Power of Boundless Compassion, is about Gregory Boyle and his industry, Homeboy Industries, a gang intervention program located in the Boyle Heights neighborhood of Los Angeles, the gang capital of the world. At what time? Let's check when this book was published, because LA is a large city and therefore is constantly going through transformations. And it's going through some bullshit right now. So this book is a copyright of 2010. So I'm not saying right this second, though I could look into Homeboy Industries, I'm sure. Gregory Boyle distills his experience working in the ghetto into a breathtaking series of parables inspired by faith. Arranged by theme and filled with sparkling humor and glowing generosity, these essays offer a stirring look at how full our lives could be if we could find the joy in loving others and in being loved unconditionally. From giant tattooed Cesar shopping at JCPenney fresh out of prison, we learn how to feel worthy of God's love. From 10-year-old Lula, we learn the importance of being known and acknowledged. From Pedro, we understand the kind of patience necessary to rescue someone from the darkness. In each chapter, we benefit from Boyle's gentle, hard-earned wisdom. So again, this book is it's about helping people who are marginalized, people who are having a really tough fucking time. And it includes discussion points and an interview with the author. So it's like a good Catholic book club book too. If I read this again, I don't know how like white saviory it would come across. So for that reason, I'm going to call it 4 blood chalices out of 5. But this is a really beautiful story. It brought me to tears a few times. It's just like, man, everyone's a person, right? Everyone's like their own human person. And I'm sorry, this is probably obvious if you're watching this, but just in case it isn't, like people who don't look like you, who don't speak the same language as you, still have full inner lives and should be treated as you would like to be treated, right? That golden rule. But something that was taught specifically to me in my Christianity/Catholicism is that you should see every single person like that's Jesus, because if Jesus is saying, what you did for the least of you did for me. That's absolutely paraphrasing and not the quote. But this really comes through in this book and is really inspiring to work with people who maybe initially look scary to you, maybe who you think you should avoid instinctively because of the way that you've been raised to think about tattooed people, about homeless people, about people of a different skin color than you, etc. So yeah, Tattoos on the Heart, I definitely recommend. Maybe I'll read it again soon, but oh my gosh, my TBR is already super long. Last and certainly not least, probably the most popular Christian book besides the Bible. If you disagree, feel free to tell me what that book is below. But this here is The Shack. Okay? The Shack, actually fucking life-changing. Like, I already considered myself a pretty progressive Christian most of my life. And The Shack, oh, just moved me to tears like 4 different times throughout this book. This book is a movie, but the movie is fine. Everybody says this, the book is better, okay? I really wish it got like a mini series so you could really just flesh out every single piece of this story because it's so important. At least it feels that way to me. And it's inspired a lot of people. So like yeah, the New York over 20 million copies sold. So I actually the first time I read it, I read my aunt's copy and then I had to buy one for myself. And then I bought 2 more copies for people we will just say will not appreciate the story as much because of narrow-minded thinking. But this is an incredible story. If you haven't heard of it, it's written as if it's nonfiction, but it is fiction, right? So it confused me at first. I was like, what is this supposed to be a real story? It's being told by somebody who claims to know the main character. And that person in the movie is played by Tim McGraw for some reason. Anyway, so it is fiction. But it's this man, he's been depressed for a really long time because something really terrible happened to one of his children. And then he finds a note in the mailbox that is apparently from God. You know, it's signed off by the name that this person called God as a child. And they're called to go to this shack, the titular shack. And, you know, obviously he's a bit apprehensive. The shack is where the traumatic stuff really happened. But he basically spends like a weekend with God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. So God, for most of the story, is represented as a Black woman. That's why some people can't wrap their narrow-minded heads around it. Jesus is a Palestinian man. Let me see if there's pictures from the movie in here. Nope, that's another copies of the book. I chose one that was not from the movie on purpose. Okay. So Jesus like is a Palestinian man. I think they had a Palestinian man play him, a Palestinian Jewish man play him in the movie. But anyway, and then the Holy Spirit is supposed to be this like it's she's kind of a woman, but she's also just kind of like light. Um and yeah, it's just so beautiful, such a wonderful lighten the load for your faith and 100. I'm not going to put 100 chalices of blood on here. I'll just put 5, but 100 blood chalices out of 5. This is so good. I wish it was a mini series. I would absolutely recommend this read to every Christian at least. And if you're not, I think it's still a nice story. I think it's still well written. I just don't know that you'll find as much like emotional value in it if you're not like a Trinity believer. But but this is so true. It's the last line on the back of this book says, "You'll want everyone you know to read this book." That's so true. So true. I really, really enjoyed this. And I'm glad I didn't read it until I was like at a specific point in my life where I like really had nothing. Because if I had read this when I was first recommended to me in 2014, I mean, I'm sure I would have enjoyed it. but I just really, really needed it at the time that I needed it. I do words so good. I'm so good at words, you guys. I guess maybe I should technically rate the Bible. That's a Christian book that I have. Um, 2 blood chalices out of 5. Some good stuff in there, a lot of contradictory stuff. The books don't flow into each other. 2 out of 5. So thanks for sticking around. I hope that was relatively enjoyable and or useful. I have other books that I haven't touched in multiple years that touch on witchcraft, that touch on Celtic myth. If you're wondering about where my life is currently going and not where it was, just let me know. Comments, use them. Please also like this video. That'd be very nice of you. Um, I know this is for such a specific audience, but if you like the video, it'll help that audience find it. Subscribe if you want. If not, cool. Have a wonderful night. Peace and love. All right, let's open to a page. Here. Why not? And pick a verse. Pick a verse. This is the first book of Chronicles, chapter 18. We're in the chapter David's military victories. King Toy of Hamath heard that David had defeated Hadadezer's entire army. Cool for him. The end. Thanks. So now this next one is incredibly specific to the college Catholic club that I did some time in. No, let's rephrase that. I did time in Catholic club. Just brings it back to what did he actually ask? What? I can talk words. I do words so good. I'm reading East of Eden right now because I love a challenge. And I don't have time for other things. Yeah, let's sit bisexually again. Let's do that. I don't know how to end these. I don't know how to end these. Do I want to dig up the Bible from the back of my desk? Yeah, 'cause sometimes it's funny.